happens just through our spirit bearing witness to certain things. The first thing is that the Most High God revealed to me, especially through reading the book of Adam and Eve, about marriages and about how marriage is a covenant, period. That means it can be a covenant made verbally. Most of the marriages that I even have seen in scripture have been marriages that have been made verbally, between either two families or even just two people. There were no other witnesses other than the Most High God and Satan and the angels, you know. Other than that, it was just these two people. And it was still legally binding. Because that comes from the Most High anyway. It was still binding to him. It still mattered to him. All right? And it obviously mattered to Satan because it mattered to God. So he did everything in his power to, you know, just break them up and mess them up, to keep them from honoring their covenant. Praise the Most High that it was not allowed. But in other instances of scripture, a lot of the men were also allowed to choose wives. Those who were knowledgeable, you know, of God's ways, who were just being obedient to him. Even if they weren't quite knowledgeable, they were seeking for him. They wanted to be obedient to him. When it was time for them to select a wife, they would be led by what they were learning, led by what they knew about God's commandments and his laws. And that's how they selected their wife. But other than that, there was no a specific person for them. There was no the one for them. Not in the idea that sometimes we may hear. It was literally a choice that was made. And they both agreed. Once the woman agreed, it's what it was. They were married. Some people in scripture were betrothed to be married, which meant in actuality they were married. They were now off the market. Nobody else could marry them at this point. Others knew that, okay, that woman is this man's wife and this man is that woman's husband. It was decided sometimes, yes, through parental selection, and other times it was decided by lot. When I say lot, I mean, for example, maybe some brothers was around and they had some stones or something. And whoever picked up the stone that shined in their hand would be the one to marry a certain person. Now, I didn't read that one in scripture. I'm going to tell y'all the one I read in scripture for real. The one I read in scripture was some sticks were in the hands of some young men who were of marriable age. And it was about Mary. Who was going to marry Mary, who we now know is Christ's mother. Her husband was selected by lot. These men all had, like, just to give a clear example, we can say some broomstick, like the little sticks from the broomstick. A lot of them had full length ones. The one that was shorter or broken was going to be who was supposed to marry Mary. Joseph got that stick. I kind of laughed when I found that out because I was like, I wonder if that's what it means by getting the short end of the stick. But anyway, the point is Joseph got that stick, and that's how he became pretty much Mary's husband. There wasn't a marital ceremony. There wasn't a written agreement right then. It was verbal, really and truthfully. And then whoever got that stick, based on the verbal agreement, that's what happened. Whoever got the short stick was going to be who was going to marry Mary. Those were the terms. Those were the conditions. And Joseph got it. And so therefore it was binding. And other people had to recognize it in the community. So Another example, Tobit. There were 4 people that I know of that were involved, aside from, of course, the Most High God. Azariah, Tobias, Edna, Raguel, and Sarah. That's 4 people. A father, a mom, a daughter, the man who was trying to marry the daughter, and a witness. That was one other witness. That was one other witness that was present. That's outside of this young lady's family. There was just one witness. So we have a few different examples of marriages that God upheld and still upholds. And people are saying that, oh, you're not married unless you do this, this, and this, and the third. Where is that in Scripture? Where is this in Scripture? You can't say something that God once has already accepted. And I mean he really accepted it. I'm not talking about stuff like multiple wives where it's not even accepted because it's not even in his original design, nor is it when Yeshua came back accepted. I ain't talking about that. But those things that God literally has not changed, how can you then say that somebody else's marriage isn't legitimate just because it wasn't done the way that you think it should be done? God is a God of word. He's a God of word. And when you don't uphold your word, he holds you accountable. We know that to be true because Israel is right now still breaking their word to their husband. And that's why we're in trouble. But nevertheless, he's going to, because of his love for us, and because thankfully he's already sent redemption for us, he's going to restore his wife back to himself. He's going to restore his wife back to himself. And she's going to want to be obedient to him now. I think that's amazing. I think that's good news. But I have to point out something. It's actually because of the curses, because of the suffering that we're having to go through, that we're even being taught about what we did wrong, how we need to get right with our husband, like what is it that we need to do to fix ourselves and to prepare ourselves for our husband. And do you know what it is? It's going back to his laws. It's going back to his commandments. It's going back to doing things the way that he said. It's about submitting ourselves to him and operating in the laws that he said. Some people have suggested that what I'm going through right now is merely a chastisement period, and it was because I sinned with my husband, and that God really is going to give me another man. For me, God has been showing me how marriages literally, truly personify his relationship with his people. Well, I just have to say that his people were an adulterous people. I even want to go to the extent of saying that they were unequally yoked with him at a certain extent. Hear me out. They were unequally yoked with him. By that, I mean, at some point in time, they still began to disobey him. They began to pick up the culture and pick up the practices of all the pagan people around them who God clearly told them not to. And pretty much they became like unbelievers towards him because they didn't obey him. I'm going to make a part 2 to this video because right now I need to try to check and see if anything that I said was heard. So I'll be back.